Canada is coming off a heartbreaking shootout loss against the Americans at the Women's Gold Cup, but thankfully that is not the only tournament they will be competing in 2024 as the Olympics are fast approaching. Now that match in the semifinals should have never taken place, but there is a lot of positives to take away from that tournament, a lot of great performances, and today Alex and I have been tasked to come up with the 18-player squad we think that Bev will bring to the Olympics. So first, let's start with the things that we do know.
Yeah, what we do know is Bev Priestman's going to have a heck of a time building a squad this summer because, as mentioned by Josh, it is only 18 players that she's allowed to bring to this tournament, 16 outfielders, 2 goalkeepers. You're allowed 4 alternates aside that, but they will not be in the final squad. So it's a very, very tough decision as you have to cut down a lot of players. So to begin this task, we went with what we know. And what we know is that the Canada is going to stick with this 3-4-2-1 formation, or at least we're assuming they will, given the success they've had. So we built this squad with that in mind, which is very important to note. And then because of that, we also ended up putting 10 locks. Because I think at the end of the day, heading into the summer, there's some players who are going to be there. And we went for a bunch of players that will likely be key starters, key players in this 3-4-2-1 system. They are Kaylin Sheridan, Sabrina D'Angelo in goal. Of course, those two have been excellent. They've been competing for that number 1 spot. They will be the 2 goalkeepers. And with that, we went with 8 outfielders who we feel like are locks in that 3-4-2-1. It's Kadisha Buchanan, Vanessa Gilles at the back. They will start in most games. Ashley Lawrence at right wing back. Jesse Fleming and Quinn in midfield have kind of carried a lot of the load and we'll expect it to start. And then up front, it's a front 3 of Adriana Leon, Nichelle Prince, and Chloe Lacasse. So those are 10 locks. Those are the players who we've seen a lot of in this 3-4-2-1 and we'll see a lot of at this Olympics, I imagine.
It's hard to argue with those 10 players. I would say that they are absolutely locks as well. But now it's time to fill out the rest of the roster. And we have 8 spots up for grabs, and we are going to go in 2 different directions. We have the new guard and we have the old guard. And the way to distinguish the two is the new guard have played in 2 or fewer tournaments, major tournaments like World Cup, Olympics, and the old guard have played in 3 or more, which means that these players have a ton of experience because they've played in 3 or more Olympics/World Cup. So we are going to begin with the old guard, and these are some names that have a ton of experience and a ton of caps. Shalina Zadorsky, Gabby Carl, Jade Riviere, Julia Garoso, Desiree Scott, Janine Becky, Deanne Rose, and Jordan Heidema. It's crazy to see some of the age gaps in these players as well, from someone like Desiree Scott all the way down to Julia Garoso, but they all come with a lot of experience. And for me, Alex, the wild card is Janine Becky, because this is the player who I think, when healthy, at her best, is in not only the squad, but in the starting 11. But right now, we just don't really know what to expect from her.
Yeah, these are the toughest discussions, I think, in this squad. It comes down to someone like a Janine Becky, because this Olympics it's a gauntlet. It's tough. Like, the schedule is absurd. If Canada makes a final again, it's something like 6 games in around 16 days. There's short turnarounds between matches. You have a smaller squad. You need all your players to be 100% fit and being able to deal with these turnarounds. And I think with someone like Janine Becky who's coming off the injury, that's going to be the biggest thing she needs to prove, because she was absolutely essential to an Olympic squad with her versatility. She could play both wing back positions. She can play anywhere up front. That sort of versatility is massive, because when you have less players, you need some players who can kind of do multiple things, but you also need fit players. I think if this is a World Cup squad, for example, Janine Becky's a lock in a 23-player squad. But when it comes down to 18 and you need your fittest and most available players, it will be a race against the clock for someone like Becky to make it back in. So definitely something to monitor here is that it feels like for these Olympics, you need to be fit, and you either need to be versatile or the best at your position. That's the real way to get in, because if not, it can be so easy to get lost in the shuffle.
That could be an issue for Desiree Scott as well, because when you picture these successful Canadian sides, you think of Desiree Scott. But I mean, being 36 years old, coming off a knee injury, is very difficult to go into a gauntlet like that. So that's the reason she kind of falls into the old guard and might not be ready for this roster. And if you want to take a look at the new guard, you take a look at someone like Scott, and now someone like Simia Wujo, who I think absolutely fits that new guard bill, along with 7 other players with Jade Rose, Sydney Collins, we have Clarissa Larcy, Olivia Smith, Marie Yasmin Aladou, Evelyn Vienne, and Amanda Allen, who all these players have 2 or less tournaments like we mentioned. But Alex, when you're talking about the change in the guard, which one of these players sticks out to you? Because for me, I mean, Jade Rose, I think, is basically as big of a lock as you can possibly get.
Yeah, someone like Jade Rose is huge because it feels like she's tailor made to this 3-4-2-1 system they've brought in with their ability to play out the back. Just an incredible ball playing center back, but she's incredibly athletic as well. So good at just catching up, playing 1v1, using her speed to her advantage. We even saw her smarts. I mean, she is at Harvard for a reason, but her smarts in this rain game the past day felt like she was the quickest to adapt to the conditions. Little things like flicking it up, juggling before hitting a ball long to get more distance. You can see that Harvard pedigree coming into play. So I'm really excited about Rose. On a similar vein, Simio Wujo as well, just really excites me with their profile as a destroy and progress midfielder. So good on the ball, incredibly good on the ball, but she's also able to physically handle playing in the midfield. She's got the physical tools. She can cover ground. She's a good defender. It feels like everything you want from a modern number 6. So I think someone like a Wujo as well could slot in. I think that's a lot what's so exciting about some of these young players. A lot of them have really stepped up over the last 6 minutes, have looked like key pieces who could really help Canada in this 3-4-2-1.
Now it's time to build Bev's squad, and I think what we've come up with today is a good balance. And I don't think Canada's best squad should be the entire old guard or the entire new guard. I think what this squad is looking for is something right in the middle. So we're going to start off, Alex, taking a look at the way that we broke down this roster. We have 18 spots up for grabs. We got 2 keepers, 4 center backs, 3 fullbacks, 4 central midfielders, 3 wingers, and 2 strikers. You kind of already mentioned them because they were part of our locks, but anything you want to add for our keepers?
No, I think it's going to be exciting to see what Kaylin Sheridan and Sabrina D'Angelo can do. For Sheridan, that feels like, again, a big moment. That last World Cup was her first real, going in as the number 1, no Stephanie Labbe around. This was her chance to be the number 1. This is, again, a chance for her to be that at this Olympics. But keep an eye on Sabrina D'Angelo. She's really good at playing with the ball out of the back with their feet, which Canada wants to do. Sometimes Sheridan has struggled with that. There's been times in this 3-4-2-1 where D'Angelo's looked like a better tactical fit, even though we know Sheridan is like a very good shot stopper, one of the best in the world. She saved Canada at the Gold Cup with their shot stopping at times. So there could be a quiet battle there where, yes, Sheridan gets the net for day 1, but D'Angelo's going to be right in her heels.
Moving on now to the center back position, considering Canada plays with that back 3, it is very important we bring 4 center backs. We have Kadisha Buchanan, Vanessa Gilles, Jade Rose, and Shalina Zadorsky. So one of the new guards, one of the old guards. I think it's a pretty well-rounded back 4. Anyone you feel a little hard done by that might have got left out here?
No, I think this is a very fair group because I think Buchanan and Gilles are the locks, right? They're the 2 that's going to start. You got a former Lyon, star center back. You got a current Lyon star center back. They've really stepped up as leaders. But what's been key is that Rose and Zadorsky have both shown in their auditions. And I think what's nice is you get a bit of something different. With Rose, you get a bit more of that athleticism, right? You get that sort of, if the game's stretched out, she'll be able to handle some of the faster wingers on the other teams. But with Zadorsky, she's a very good ball player of her own. Maybe if you're playing against more of a low block, you could slot in Zadorsky, and she's very good on corners. Zadorsky, for whatever it is over the last few years, she's really found her stride in terms of being a set-piece weapon for Canada. Heck, she had a brace in one of the Gold Cup games off that. So I think the fact that Zadorsky and Rose have done so well with that competition, it'll be nice for Priestman to look at certain games. You know what? I can go Zadorsky. You know what? I can go Rose. And that's key for a manager.
They absolutely showed that at the Gold Cup as well, the way that they were able to easily come into the different lineups. From right to left, you had either Rose, Gilles, Buchanan, or from right to left again, you had Buchanan, Gilles, and Zadorsky. So it was great to see the way that each one could come in and do a job when asked upon. But now moving on to the fullback position, we had 3 up for grabs. This one's very important to this system, as we know, but we will get into a little bit later of different players that are a little further up the pitch that can play in this role. But the 3 fullbacks we went with was Ashley Lawrence, Jade Riviere, and Sydney Collins.
Yeah, this was a very tough position, and I think this is probably the one where we could see the most movement. I think this is the position that in 4 months we might completely change our choices. We might be like, oh yeah, we were wrong, just because there's so much up for grabs. I think Ashley Lawrence is a nailed-on starter. She will be a big piece at these Olympics again, as she continues to be. But there's really wide open. Jade Riviere continues to be excellent at Manchester United when fit, but that's a big question mark. Will she be fit enough for this tournament? She's not dealing with any major injuries, but it just always seems to be little injuries that are, keeping her out of tournaments, keeping her out of moments. So that'll be something to monitor, because I think when fit, she is looks like a potential starter alongside Lawrence. They have good, chemistry of one playing on each side. And Sydney Collins has really been a revelation. She just looks tailor-made for this 3-4-2-1. She can get up and down the pitch. She can deliver a good ball, but she's naturally a center back, so she has those defensive instincts. But she's also coming off a fractured ankle, and Gabrielle Carl was one of the standouts of this Gold Cup. So I think this is one where it's a lot closer. Ultimately, based on what we've seen, Priestman has had a lot of familiarity with Riviere, and she seems to really just appreciate the way Collins fits in. So we went with those two. But I just would say of the choices we've made, this is probably the one where I could see the most change between now and August.
I absolutely agree. I think it's interesting that 2 of those 3 players were not in this Gold Cup, but like we said, there's reasons for that. And I just want to add that Sydney Collins, I think, is, like you mentioned, absolutely tailor-made for this system. She really impressed me. We had a debate whether to go Collins or Gabby Carl. I really pushed for Collins. I do hope she makes it because I do think she's a good fit for this side. But now we're on to the midfield where we have 4 midfielders, and this one was pretty difficult in a way, Alex, to kind of come up with. We have Jessie Fleming, Simi Awujo, Quinn, and Julia Grosso. And Grosso is the interesting one because this is a player, again, very young, but has been around the national team for a long time, scored the winning PK to win gold. So, Olympics, Grosso, they kind of go together. But she's not a perfect fit for this system, which kind of leaves an opportunity for someone like a Quinn or Awujo to kind of take that starting role alongside of Fleming. What do you make of the 4-player midfield here?
Yeah, I think it's a very interesting group. I like the mix because Fleming at this point, she's the captain. She's still so young, but been in so many tournaments. She's going to be a rock. But it's again that question, like you mentioned, who best fits alongside. And I think from what we've seen, Quinn can absolutely do a job when Quinn and Fleming are together. They have good chemistry. You're getting Quinn's just a very solid, destroy and progress profile. That natural center back background that they have is really shown in the defensive side, but so impressive on the ball Quinn can be with just that ability to turn through tight spaces. But Awujo showed a lot in terms of her ball play. Awujo's passing range was really impressive. She knows how to just draw defenders in and put the perfectly weighted passes out. So I think maybe in a game where you have a bit more possession, you might want an Awujo to step in, whereas a Quinn in a game where things are a bit more congested in the midfield. Heck, you could also see a scenario where you just see Quinn, Awujo, Fleming. And I think that's where Grosso comes in, is that she can also offer you a different look. Okay, maybe Grosso isn't tailor-made for this double pivot, and we might only see her in sub-appearances and whatnot. But look, there's no reason why in some games Canada can't try a 3-5-2, sacrifice one of the forwards for a midfield-heavy game. That is where a Grosso will shine. She's so good for Juventus in that 3-player midfield. I would love to see a Grosso, Fleming, Quinn, Grosso, Fleming, Awujo, Quinn, Fleming. The possibilities are endless, and I think that's what's nice with this midfield, is that there's that versatility.
There are definitely some very difficult decisions to come when making that midfield, but for me, there was not very many difficult decisions when making this front 5 and our 3 wingers and our 2 strikers, because I had a very easy time doing this. I'm curious to see what Alex thinks about it as well, but I find it very fascinating when we take a look at the new guard and the old guard. There was a total of 16 players in those 2 brackets, and 8 of them were wingers/forwards. We had a lot of talent up for grabs, which means that there's a lot of decisions to make, but I feel very comfortable in the front 5 that we went with. So the 3 wingers, we have Chloe Lacasse, Adriana Leon, and Olivia Smith. I think from the Gold Cup we saw, these were, arguably 2 of Canada's best players in Lacasse and Leon. And I think Olivia Smith, when she came off the bench, she had the concussion towards the end as well, had a fantastic breakout tournament. She's crushing it right now in Portugal. She's a player who, whether she starts or not for Canada, is someone that I would want to play some type of impact on the match, because you put her in late in the game, she can do something special, along with the front 2, which is Nichelle Prince and Jordan Huitema, where they offer something different. I think Prince would be my kind of starting striker, but Jordan Huitema coming off the bench can play in different roles. For me, I had a very easy time making this kind of front 5. Alex, what are your thoughts on it? And do you want to give any special mention to a player who might have just missed out?
Look, I like the 5 that we came up with, but I will disagree with the idea that it was easy to come up with this choice. Yes, we knew that Lacasse, Leon, and Prince are the locks. They'll likely start together. They've had some great chemistry. But man, how do you only pick 2 players alongside them from a list of, 8, as we just did? It was an impossible challenge. I think what we came up with makes sense. Huitema just seems to be the 9 that fits most for Priestman. Priestman's really found an understanding of what makes Huitema played her best, and I think she showed it at this Gold Cup. Other than a shaky showing against Costa Rica and the KOs, she had 3 goals, including big goal against the US, showing that Huitema maybe has a bit more big game magic that needs to be taken out of her that we haven't always seen in the past for Canada. So I think Hoytema and Priestman have shown that there's a fit there. And then I think Olivia Smith, you just need that wild card sometimes up front. It's something where her speed, her creativity, her ability to just strike a ball, I think that will be key in games. Maybe even if she's not starting, at least you can turn, okay, Olivia Smith will come in and turn games on their head. But it's tough, right? Because how are you going to say someone like Deanne Rose, who's been so important for Canada in multiple tournaments, scored a huge penalty in 2021 when they won the gold. She won the penalty too against the U.S. in that tournament. In 2016, she scored some key goals at the Olympics. How do you leave someone like that out? It's a tough discussion. Clarissa Laracy just looks electric every time she plays for Canada. How do you leave someone like that out of the mix, right? Mary Yasmin Aladou scoring for fun in Portugal. You just imagine if you gave her more minutes for Canada, she could really do some damage, because in limited minutes, she's looked excellent. Like, it is a very tough decision to make. So I'm very curious to see. I feel like I'm pretty confident in the 5 we've picked, but that's the thing with forwards. You never know. Maybe someone gets absolutely red hot over the next 3 months and makes the discussion even tougher than it already was.
Well, speaking of difficult decisions, Alex, ours is not quite done yet. We did come up with our 18-player roster, but we still have 4 alternate spots up for grabs. So walk me through our choices. I know that it was difficult, but I think from the look of it, we went with a little bit more of an old guard presence.
Yeah, for sure. I think what's nice with the alternates, of course, if they're needed, they might, you might end up having to use an alternate or two, but also, this is a chance for players to travel, train with the team. A little bit more leadership is important, because that's a great spot to have that sort of leadership. So you're allowed 3 outfielders, 1 goalkeeper. So for our goalkeeper, we went for someone who I feel bad for, just because she's had some good moments at club level. She recently made a huge move to Bay FC, where hopefully she can play. It's Luciane Prue. Unfortunately, she hasn't been able to play just with D'Angelo and Sheridan in front of her. It's always that constant, eternal Canadian goalkeeper problem. There always seems to be 2 or 3 good ones at a time, so it's always tough for those 3rd, 4th, 5th goalkeepers. But Prue's been a very good loyal servant. Meanwhile, the 3 outfielders, we went Janine Becky, Desiree Scott, Eveline Via. So for Scott and Becky, it was just the injury timelines a bit too tight, but we feel that leadership would be absolutely essential, and it'd be key to have one of them at the ready if needed. And Eveline Via, it's really tough. She doesn't make the squad. She just continues to score for fun at club level. She scored a huge goal at this Gold Cup. She just, for whatever reason, continues to be an odd player out, but personally, I think it would be great to have her there, that if something happens to one of the forwards, it is a nice problem to turn and be like, oh, I have Eveline Via, who I can throw into the squad. So tough to not get her in, but definitely well-deserved to at least be in the 22.
Finally, to end off the episode, we are going to build our best 11 in that 3-4-2-1 system. So between the sticks, we have Sheridan, outside right center back Rose, central center back Gilles, outside left center back Buchanan. Our right wing back is Lawrence. The 2 central midfielders is Quinn and Fleming. The left wing back is Collins. Our 2 kind of central cams is Leon and Lacasse, and our striker is Prince. That is all the time we have for on this episode. I really hope you guys all enjoyed it. Let us know what you think about the squad we created, our old guard versus new guard, and of course the starting 11. And as always, if you guys enjoyed this episode, be sure to drop a like, drop a sub, and we'll see you guys soon. Cheers, friends.